My dear child of thunder and grace, come and sit for a while. Lay your burdens down at the altar of this moment, because I must speak to you now, not with ordinary words, but with the voice of ancient winds and the trembling of a soul that knows God has touched it. There are things in this world that simply cannot be hidden. The sunrise always announces itself. The lion, even when silent, shakes the earth with every step. And the one anointed by God, oh beloved, the one anointed by God is far more powerful than people can ever understand. Not dangerous because they seek to harm, but because they cannot be silenced, cannot be bribed, and cannot be controlled. If you recognize these signs, then I must tell you the truth. You are dangerously anointed by God. Come closer, dear one, and let me cradle your tired spirit in truth. There is a rhythm in the life of the anointed, a heartbeat that does not follow the rhythm of the world. It is a holy sound, pulsing with the weight of glory and the wisdom passed down through generations. When you walk through fires that should have burned you, when you come out of the flames untouched, that is no ordinary thing. That, beloved, is a holy sign. That is heaven whispering, I have chosen this one. You see, fire is never gentle. Fire does not ask for permission. It consumes dreams, eats reputations, and burns deep within the soul. Yet somehow here you are, not just surviving, but rising, breathing, growing in the very places they said life could never return. That is no coincidence. That is the mark of the dangerously anointed. You must understand, being anointed by God does not promise a life of comfort. In truth, it often means the opposite. You will find yourself in dry deserts while others drink from rivers. You will face storms while others enjoy calm sunshine. But it is not because God has left you, it is because He has shaped you. You've felt the heat of betrayal, the ache of being misunderstood by the ones you love. You've seen doors close that you begged to stay open. You've cried in silence while smiling in front of others, carrying a calling that felt too heavy for one soul to hold. But you kept walking. Every step felt like dragging your heart across stones, but still you did not quit. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you divine. There were nights when the silence screamed louder than any voice, and still you stayed. You stayed in the fight. You stayed in faith. You stayed believing in a God who still speaks even in whispers. It takes fire to remove what is false. It takes flame to melt the ego and shape a vessel that can carry heaven's oil. And haven't you been shaped, beloved? The dangerously anointed are never born in safe spaces. No, they are carved from chaos, formed in back rooms, on their knees, with tears streaming down their face. They are not made by applause, but by agony. You didn't choose the fire chose you. It saw a soul that could endure, a heart that would not harden, and a spirit that would still call out to God even when He seemed silent. People may look at you now and only see the glow. They don't know the price of that glow. They didn't hear the nights you whispered, God, I can't go on, and He whispered back, yes, you can. They didn't see the mornings when your feet felt heavy as stone, yet you stood anyway, dressed your soul in courage, and faced a world determined to make you small. Every trial that came to destroy you only showed what could not be broken. Every storm you outlasted revealed the strength flowing through your veins. You are a living contradiction to hell's expectations. They thought you would quit. They thought you would fall, but you rose, with ashes in your hair and praise on your lips. The fire didn't destroy you, it delivered you. The world says if it hurts, it must be harmful, but heaven says if it burns, it may be birthing something holy. Yes, you've burned with grief, confusion, and loss, but those flames removed what you didn't need. They purified your spirit and ignited your purpose. Now you carry a power that can't be explained, only experienced, so don't curse the fire that made you. Bless the moments that almost broke you. because they revealed the strength you didn't know you had. You now walk with a quiet confidence that can't be shaken. You've seen too much, endured too long, and there's no going back. People see the oil on your life, but they never saw the crushing that produced it. They see your confidence, but not the wilderness that shaped it. They admire your wisdom, but didn't witness the nights you curled up, crying for answers. You're not just a survivor, you're a sign that God keeps his promises, a sign that fire cannot destroy destiny, a sign that what the enemy meant for harm, God turned into promotion. So walk boldly now. Walk like someone who has walked through hell and found heaven waiting. Walk like someone who danced in the fire and came out wrapped in prophecy. Walk like someone who carries the scent of smoke, not as a memory of destruction, but as a testimony of protection. You are not here by accident. You are not alive by coincidence. Every scar you wear is a story of survival. Every tear you've shed watered the soil of your destiny. You are dangerously anointed, not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. Let the world wonder how you're still standing. Let them whisper about your glow. They don't know the price. They don't know the promise. They don't know the God who held you when all you had left was faith. So lift your head, child of God. Straighten your back. Let the fire in your bones speak for itself. You are the evidence. You are the proof. You are the flame that refused to die. You walked through fire, and the fire bowed before you. Come close now, my dear one. Let me tell you a truth that has been waiting in heaven's silence. When you are dangerously anointed by God, your very presence makes darkness tremble. You don't need to speak a word. You don't have to shout or even call the name that shakes hell. Just your being there is enough. That's the power your spirit carries, and it wasn't always like that. There was a time when you doubted your worth, a time when you made yourself small just to fit into places God had already told you to leave. You tried to walk quietly, keep peace, avoid attention, but the oil on your life refused to be hidden. The light in you disturbed the shadows around you. Those shadows, those unseen forces that feed on bitterness and fear, they recognized something in you that even you hadn't seen yet. Darkness knows when light walks in. It senses the scent of obedience on your soul. It feels the fire of your prayers, the power of your worship, and the angels walking beside you. Even when you feel weak, the enemy sees strength in you. Even when you doubt your purpose, demons know your name. Not because you're famous, but because you're faithful. You've been through hell and still came out worshiping. That makes you dangerous. And isn't it strange how people say you're too deep, too intense, or that you take God too seriously? They don't understand that righteousness is your breath. They don't see the battles you fought in silence while they slept peacefully. They don't know the times you prayed for people who never prayed for you. And yet when you walk into a room, everything changes. Conversations shift, eyes glance, spirits grow uneasy. That's because the presence of God in you stirs what others try to hide. Not by shouting, not by force, but by simply existing. You carry heaven's fragrance, and it unsettles every foul thing nearby. Your walk reveals what others conceal. Your praise breaks chains that others wear like ornaments. Your silence exposes lies without saying a single word. Oh yes, beloved, you are dangerous. You were never meant to blend in. You were made to stand out, not in pride, but in purpose. You carry a flame that cannot be put out, and the enemy knows it. That's why your battles have been so personal. That's why attacks came through people you trusted. That's why the lies were crafted to target your deepest fears. The enemy knew he couldn't steal your gift, so he tried to silence your confidence. He wanted you to doubt what heaven already declared. But every time you stood back up, you shook hell to its core. Every time you forgave when you had every reason to hold anger, Every time you loved when you had reason to leave, every time you prayed instead of fighting back, you reminded the darkness that it holds no power over you. You don't need a pulpit to preach. Your life itself is the sermon. You don't need a crowd to cheer you on. God already crowned you in the secret place. You don't need anyone's permission to walk in power. You were born in the image of the one who is power. You carry divine disruption inside you. Wherever you go, peace follows. Wherever you stand, miracles can happen. When you speak, strongholds start to shake. It's not that you are better than others. It's just that you've been broken in ways most people could never survive. And out of that breaking came oil, thick, fragrant, and holy, marking you as a vessel of glory. Child, don't be surprised when people feel uneasy around you. Don't be sad when they start keeping their distance. Some only loved you when you were broken because your pain made them feel better about their own bondage. But now that you're healing, now that you're rising, now that your spirit is free, and your praise is unfiltered, they can't handle the weight of your anointing. But that's not for you to fix. You weren't chosen to comfort the comfortable. You were called to disturb darkness, to tear down walls with truth, to uproot curses with prayer, and to breathe life into dry bones with words soaked in God's power. So when you walk into a room and sense resistance, don't question your place, confirm it. When you feel a heaviness around you, don't run, rise. That pressure in your chest when certain people are near isn't random. That's discernment, beloved. That's your spirit picking up on warfare others pretend doesn't exist. Don't ignore what God is showing you. You've been set apart, not set aside. You've been hidden, not forgotten. You've been tested, not abandoned. And now you walk in a power most people only dream of. That power isn't noisy. It doesn't need to be. It moves quietly. It speaks softly. It commands through love. You are both temple and trumpet, warrior and worshipper, storm and calm. You are grace wrapped in holy fire. So no, child, it's not your imagination when rooms grow silent. It's not coincidence when people turn cold. It's not strange when things start to fall apart just because you stayed still. You are anointed, dangerously so. And the darkness knows it. It sees the flame in your eyes. It hears the authority in your breath. It senses the angels that walk beside you in silence. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove a thing. Just show up. Just stand and be. Because when you are anointed by God, your very presence is warfare. Child, you've already won battles before saying a word. Come closer now, child, and listen to a word that echoes through the wilderness, through the caves of prophets, through the silence of seers. When you are dangerously anointed by God, you will face seasons of isolation, not because you're forgotten, not because you're unworthy, but because heaven has wrapped you in sacred separation. It's not punishment, it's preparation. There's something holy about being set apart. It's a lonely path to be called. While others dance in crowds, you will cry in prayer. While they seek attention, you will seek God. While their lives are full of noise, yours will be baptized in stillness. That's the cost of the anointing. It's the price of carrying oil strong enough to break chains and heal hearts. The anointed don't walk the same road. The steps of destiny don't move with the multitudes. They press through narrow paths, through thorns and dry valleys. You've felt that emptiness, haven't you? That quiet where laughter used to live. That hollow space where friends once stood, now echoing with silence. It's not because you're unloved, it's because you're called. God had to pull you away before he could lift you up. He had to quiet the noise around you so you could hear his whisper within. He had to remove some hands from your life so you wouldn't confuse their help with his strength. He saw how your heart leaned on people never meant to hold your calling. He saw how your joy depended on applause and how your identity was tied to approval. So he stripped it all away, not to break you, but to build you. Loneliness became your companion, not to crush you, but to draw you deeper. It's in the quiet that your ears opened. It's in the stillness that your spirit began to roar. You began to understand that your assignment was too heavy to rest on shallow connections. So he isolated you to consecrate you. He hid you to anoint you. He silenced the crowd so you could hear the commission. And yes, it hurt. It hurt to be forgotten by those you prayed for. It burned to be left out by those you loved. But you're not rejected, you're reserved. Reserved for something holy, reserved for a time when your voice will shake heavens, when your hands will heal, when your very presence will carry weight no weak foundation can handle. You're not being punished in the wilderness, you're being prepared. That dry land you walk is not a prison, it's training ground. God is teaching you to stand when no one claps, to pray when no one watches, to trust when nothing makes sense. That's the training of the dangerously anointed. Moses had the palace but was called in the desert. David had the pasture before the throne. Elijah sat by the brook before calling down fire. Even Jesus faced the wilderness before the synagogue. Isolation isn't abandonment. It's alignment. It's God pulling you from the noise to tune you to his voice. People won't get it. They'll say, "You've changed." And they're right. You have. You changed in the secret place, in the cave where tears washed your calling. You changed in the midnight when the Spirit whispered, "You are mine." That kind of change isn't surface, it's eternal. It realigns your soul with heaven. Now you walk differently. You move with quiet power. You don't need to explain yourself. God has already spoken for you. You no longer hunger for company that drains you, applause that distracts you, or conversations that lower your spirit. You've been in God's presence, and now everything else feels dull. Don't mourn those who left. Don't chase those who turned away. Some exits were divine. God removed them because where He's taking you, they can't follow. Not because they're bad, but because they're extra. Extra weight, extra noise, extra voices when you need clarity. There's a kind of glory that only comes through solitude, a kind of strength born from private pain. Child, you've felt that glory. You've carried that pain. You've learned to sit in silence and still feel God's hand on your back. That's a different strength. That's a deeper peace. That's what makes you dangerously anointed. So lift your head, beloved. You're not alone. You're ahead of the noise, ahead of the world's understanding. You're walking with God in such a way that your path is a mystery to others. But don't you shrink. Don't slow down to make people comfortable. You were called to climb. You were chosen to carry something rare. The anointing on your life demands consecration. It requires discipline. It requires seasons where God works more inside you than around you. Don't despise those seasons. They're sacred. They're holy. They're shaping you for what's next. And when the time comes, when the oil has settled and the fire has refined, God will send you, not as someone begging to be seen, but as someone sent. Sent with clarity, sent with purpose, sent with power, not from crowds, but from caves. Yes, child, the isolation was needed. The tears were seeds. The silence was instruction. You are dangerously anointed, and your solitude was not wasted. The one who called you apart will soon call you forward, and when he does, the world will ask where you've been. You'll smile and say, "In the wilderness with God." That calm look on your face, that smooth confidence in your walk, people see it and think they know your story. but they don't know the pain behind that grace. They don't know the cost you paid in silence, the tears you cried when no one was watching. They don't realize that while others were sleeping peacefully, you were fighting invisible battles. Before you ever stood before a crowd, you were curled up on your floor whispering, "Lord, if you don't help me, I can't make it." There's a kind of warfare only the chosen ones understand. It doesn't come gently. It doesn't knock softly. It breaks through walls and storms into your life without warning. It shows up through family problems and through your thoughts, through dreams, through finances. It creeps into your peace and tries to make your mind a war zone. And no, it's not because you did something wrong. It's because you carry something powerful. The enemy saw your purpose long before you did. He tried everything to stop you before you could even begin. You've asked yourself why your path feels so rough, why your heart has been shattered again and again, why betrayal came not from strangers, but from people you trusted the most. Let me tell you why. It's because your calling is mighty. The anointing on your life doesn't only bless you, it breaks chains for others. It destroys generational curses. It calls life into what was dead. It lifts those drowning in despair. And when your purpose carries that much power, the enemy uses everything he has to break you, to distract you, to destroy your peace. But listen, child, your survival itself is proof of your calling, the fact that you're still standing after all the storms. After the loss, after sleepless nights, after all the whispers and fears, means that God's hand is still holding you. You've stood tall when others gave up. You've worshipped through tears. You've encouraged others while your own heart was bleeding and no one knew. God hid your pain for a reason. He didn't let others see your scars because he was teaching you to fight with grace. He didn't invite the crowd into your heartbreak because your healing was holy. The deeper your wounds, the louder your roar would be. You've been trained in secret, in the quiet rooms of grief and grace. That's where dangerous anointing is born, not on stages, but in silence, through struggle. So when you feel unseen or unappreciated, when you start to doubt if all this is worth it, remember this truth. Every tear you cried was a prayer. Every night you stayed awake was a seed planted in faith. Every quiet yes you whispered while your voice shook was heard in heaven. And God is not unjust. He hasn't forgotten the fights you fought in his name. Your reward will not look like everyone else's, because your journey was never like anyone else's. You fought unseen battles. You faced depression, fear, and trauma, and yet you kept preaching, kept loving, kept giving. You fought loneliness like a warrior, and still laid hands on others, saying, "God is with you." That's not hypocrisy, that's faith, that's obedience. That's the mark of someone dangerously anointed. You see, the anointing doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you a target. It doesn't keep you from pain. It gives you strength to rise through it. The battles you face come because of the oil, not in spite of it. Your calling didn't come wrapped in comfort. It came with a cross, and you've carried it well. Even when your knees shook and you wanted to stop, you still took another step. Every step forward was a victory punch to the enemy's face. Every step said, "I may be pressed, but I'm not crushed. I may be struck down, but I'm not destroyed." Listen, your story isn't over. The pain you went through didn't come to end you. It came to raise you higher. Your trials aren't meaningless. They are shaping something deep inside you, a strength that doesn't crumble, a faith that doesn't need a crowd, a power that doesn't perform but perseveres. That's why you've gone through so much. That's why the fight has been so personal. Because your purpose is bigger than you. Because your destiny will shake generations. Because your life itself is proof that no weapon, no matter how sharp or well made, can ever prosper. So keep walking, warrior, keep rising, keep believing even when the weight feels too heavy, even when the lights fade, even when no one claps for you. Heaven is watching. Every sacrifice has been seen, and soon the battles you fought in silence will be celebrated in the open. People will look at you and wonder how you made it. They'll ask how you survived. They'll whisper, "We thought they were finished." And you'll smile, raise your hands, and say, "It wasn't me. It was God in me, the one who walked with me through every storm, stood with me through every fire, and fought for me when I couldn't move." Yes, your battles were greater than your platform, but your God has always been greater than your battles. That's why you are dangerously anointed. So sit still, child. Feel the truth humming through your bones like an old gospel song. When you are dangerously anointed, your life will provoke jealousy without reason, envy without logic, resistance without cause. You won't have to do anything but be who God made you to be. And still, some will roll their eyes at your rising, cross their arms at your growth, and frown at your favor. It's not personal. It's spiritual. It's not about what you've done. It's about who you are. The glow of a soul that's been refined through fire, chosen, and covered in oil stirs what's unsettled in others. Some people see your shine and suddenly notice the dust on their own dreams. You walk with purpose and it exposes their hesitation. You speak with confidence and it shakes their confusion. You've walked through hell and came out wearing heaven's light. And that kind of victory will always disturb those still trapped in their comfort. Understand this: the anointing cannot be hidden. No matter how quiet you try to be, no matter how small you make yourself, no matter how much you bend your light to ease others' darkness, the oil on your life will rise. It will draw attention. It will attract both love and attack. And sometimes you won't know which is which until you turn your back. I know it hurts. It cuts deep to feel rejection from the ones you prayed for, to feel distance from those whose hands you once held. You expected them to cheer for your growth, to celebrate your courage, but instead they turned away, holding back their love. You asked yourself, "What did I do wrong?" And the truth is, you lived. You grew. You refused to stay stuck, and that was enough to offend them. Some people liked you better when you were broken, because your pain made them feel better about their own chains. When you were crying, they were comfortable. When you doubted, they felt secure. But when you healed, when you stopped needing their approval and started walking in your God-given identity, they went silent. The moment you stepped into your power, you reminded them of the power they were too afraid to use. That kind of light reveals what others want to hide, but don't you dare dim it. Don't shrink to ease their fear. Don't silence your voice to soothe someone else's insecurity. That's not humility, that's betrayal of the Spirit that breathes strength into your lungs and fire into your soul. You were not made to tiptoe through your purpose. You were designed by God's hands to stand tall, to walk brave, to speak truth, to move mountains with your faith and tear down strongholds with your presence. And hear this well: when your life becomes a mirror, people will either fix their reflection or shatter the glass. You can't control their reaction. You can only guard your reflection. If your light makes someone squint, that's their problem. Let them adjust. You're not responsible for making others comfortable with your calling. You're responsible for walking in it, fully, boldly, faithfully. Favor never comes without a fight. Blessings don't appear without backlash. And anointing always brings attention, both holy and hostile. Some people won't like you, and they won't even know why. They'll whisper, shift their tone, twist their energy. And if you're not grounded in truth, you'll start believing their lies. You'll question your gift, doubt the oil, and second-guess your call. But listen closely. You cannot afford to question what God has already confirmed. You are a living contradiction to their expectations. You weren't supposed to rise. You weren't supposed to recover. You weren't supposed to shine again. But here you are, glowing brighter than before, walking strong through the same darkness meant to bury you. That kind of boldness terrifies the enemy and frustrates those still living small, while God calls them higher. So yes, your life will stir jealousy, but don't fight bitterness with bitterness. Fight it with blessing. Fight it with grace. Fight it with peace. Because nothing silences jealousy like watching you keep shining, calm and unshaken.